Winter has always been the season that defines my childhood. My parents were passionate skiers, so much so that before I was even born, they bought a small vacation cabin up in the Colorado mountains. It was an old wooden house, sturdy but creaky, surrounded by pine trees heavy with snow. Behind it ran a long downhill road that ended in a dead-end street where no one ever really came. That isolation, that quietness, it used to fascinate us back then. My father always said, "This place is peace. Time stops here." But now I think some places don't stop with time. They trap it. They hold on to something that shouldn't stay. This happened when I was 8 and my brother Josh was 11. We were spending our winter break there, and that day the snowstorm was fierce. Flakes falling so thick it felt like a silent apocalypse descending from the sky. To us, it wasn't frightening. It was a festival. We bundled up in heavy jackets, gloves, and boots and ran outside laughing, sinking ankle deep in the fresh white powder. We had our own special game, the Snow Fort War. We'd each build a fort, stack snowballs, and create what we called the Jewel, one big heavy snowball that served as a treasure. Whoever stole the other's jewel first, won. Josh always liked to play smarter than me. He said, "I'm building mine down in the neighbor's yard. You stay up here." He ran off down the sloped road, toward that quiet dead-end street where nobody lived full-time. I shouted, "Fine, I'll wait for your whistle." That was our rule. Once both forts were ready, one of us would blow a whistle to start the battle. So I waited. 5 minutes passed, then 10, no whistle. The snow kept falling thicker and thicker, muffling every sound. I thought maybe I just hadn't heard it. After a while, impatience won. I decided to go find him. I chose the road instead of cutting through the woods. I might have been brave, but not enough to wander alone through snow-choked trees in a storm. The wind bit at my face and snowflakes stung my cheeks, but I trudged on. When I reached the neighbor's place, I saw it through the trees. A white roof buried under snow, the whole place dead quiet. I looked around. Josh wasn't there, but his fort, half built, was. He must have been here. I crouched and crept closer, planning to steal his jewel and win by default. That's when I heard it. A voice, soft, gentle, and coming from the house. "Sweetheart, are you looking for your brother?" I froze. The voice came from the front porch. When I looked up, there she was, an old woman standing at the door. Her gray hair was tucked under a faded shawl, and her smile was calm, almost too calm, as if she'd been watching me for a while. "Yes," I said. "We were playing." "My brother came this way." She tilted her head, still smiling. "He's not here, dear. But you should come in, it's freezing out there." Something in her tone made me uneasy. Then my eyes drifted upward, to the second-floor window. Someone was standing there, half hidden behind the curtain. I could only see part of their face, the lower half obscured by the window frame, the upper half covered by a dark hat. But one eye, one cold, staring eye, was visible, and it was fixed on me. I looked down. There were footprints in the snow, small ones, Josh's size. They led up to the porch and then turned back. He'd gone up there and changed his mind. But where was he now? The old woman was still watching me, that same frozen smile, like she was waiting for something. "Come inside, sweetheart," she said again, waving me closer. "You'll catch your death out here." Every part of me screamed no. It was like something deep inside me shouted without words. "Don't go in there." I didn't move. Then I shouted, "Josh!" The sound vanished into the storm. The woman's smile faded. Her expression shifted. Her face tightened, her eyes narrowed, her mouth went still. And then, footsteps, heavy, dragging footsteps, from inside the house, coming down the stairs. I turned and ran. Snow crunched and cracked beneath my boots as I sprinted up the road. Behind me, I heard her voice, no longer gentle, screaming, "Stop!" But I didn't. The wind howled past my ears and I didn't dare look back. I ran until my lungs burned, until the sound of my own heartbeat drowned out everything else. Then, faint, distant, I heard a whistle. My father's whistle, the one he always used to call us for dinner. I followed that sound all the way home. When I burst through the door, gasping and covered in snow, my brother Josh was standing there with my father. I stammered, There was a woman. She said you went inside." Josh's face went pale. "She told me the same thing," he said quickly. "Someone tried to make me come in too." My father's expression hardened. He grabbed his flashlight and a small iron tool from the fireplace. "You both stay here," he said, and stepped out into the storm. My mother looked terrified but didn't stop him. He was gone for a while. When he finally came back, his face was pale, beads of sweat mixed with melted snow on his forehead. "The door was locked," he said quietly. No one answered. He called the local neighbor, the one who managed the properties down the hill. After a brief phone call, he looked even more tense. "The owners are out of town this week," he said. "No one should be in that house." Josh and I just stared at each other. The chill that ran through us that night had nothing to do with the cold outside. The police came later. They took our statements, asked what the woman looked like. We both said the same thing. White hair, wrinkled face, but her eyes were strange, like she was smiling and angry at the same time. The officers checked the house. They found the back door open and faint wet footprints frozen into the wooden floor. They said there was no sign of forced entry, just a few old clothes lying around, damp from snow. That night, none of us slept alone. My father packed our valuables in the car, just in case. But some losses aren't material. That night, we lost something else. The peace we thought that place gave us. When morning came, the world outside sparkled. The same road, the same trees, but everything felt wrong. Josh looked out the window and whispered, "We're never coming back here, are we?" I didn't answer. I just kept staring down the hill, at that same white house. For a second, I could swear I saw someone behind the glass. Half a face shadowed by light watching us leave. And I imagined it whispering, "If you had come inside yesterday, you would never have gone back." 15 years later, every time it snows, when the wind moans through the trees and the night glows pale with falling flakes, I still see her, sometimes in dreams. Sometimes, I think, in the reflection of a frosted window. And I ask myself the same question every single time. Was she ever human? Or did something else move into that empty house long before we did? Whatever it was, I'm just grateful I didn't step inside that day. I've always loved winter. The mountains wrapped in white, the warmth of hot chocolate, and the laughter that echoed among friends. But the winter I'm about to tell you about became the darkest season of my life. It happened 3 years ago. My friends, Daniel, Mark, and I, had planned a ski trip to Vermont. We were college students then, eager for adventure. The drive was long, with heavy snow falling for hours. But when we finally reached the resort, it felt like a dream. A small mountain town, half buried under layers of snow, glowing under soft yellow lights. The first 2 days were normal. We skied by day, grilled meat at night, drank cheap wine, and laughed at stupid jokes. But on the third evening, something changed. We were sitting near the ski lift cafe, sipping coffee and watching the snowfall when 2 girls approached us. They were around our age, one blonde, one with dark hair, both smiling in that way that makes you feel like you've already met them before. They said they were locals, born and raised nearby. "Ever heard of Devil's Forest?" the blonde one asked, tilting her head slightly. Mark laughed. "Sounds like a haunted house attraction." She shook her head. "No, it's real. There's a frozen lake hidden in the middle of that forest. Hardly any tourists go there, but if you ever see it, you'll never forget it." Her friend added, "Just don't go at night. The cold there isn't normal." We all laughed it off, but Mark, always the bold one, said, "Let's check it out tomorrow." And just like that, the plan was made. The next morning, the sun broke through thin clouds and everything glittered under fresh snow. The 2 girls met us outside the resort with snowboards and backpacks. They looked cheerful, talkative, friendly. There wasn't a trace of danger in their faces. We followed them down winding, snow-covered trails. The deeper we went, the quieter it became. The kind of silence where even the crunch of snow under your boots feels too loud. After about an hour, the girls stopped at a narrow bend in the trail. "This is it," said the dark-haired one. "Devil's Forest." Before us was a wall of trees, thick and ancient, their branches sagging under heavy snow. The sunlight barely reached the ground. The air suddenly felt colder, not the normal chill of winter, but something dense and heavy, like the forest itself was holding its breath. Mark grinned. "Come on, the devil can't be that scary." But I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. We entered the forest. Snow dripped from the branches in slow, steady drops. The ground beneath our boots was soft, sinking slightly with each step. The only sounds were the wind and our breathing. After a while, we reached a small clearing, and there it was, a frozen lake, gleaming like glass in the middle of that dark forest. The view was unreal, almost hypnotic. "See?" the blonde girl said. "Worth it, right?" Mark nodded, grinning ear to ear. Then they pulled out a small bottle from one of their backpacks. "Celebration time," one of them said playfully. Mark laughed. "Hell yeah." They poured the liquid into paper cups, a pale, milky drink that didn't look like normal alcohol. "Try it," the blonde said. "It'll keep you warm." I took a cup, looked inside, and felt uneasy. "I'm good," I said, forcing a smile. "Not much of a drinker." They just smiled back. "Suit yourself." Mark and Daniel drank. At first, everything seemed fine. Then within minutes, something changed. Daniel's laughter grew strange, slow, slurred. His face turned red. Mark tried to stand but stumbled, his eyes unfocused. "Hey," I said, stepping closer. "You guys okay?" Mark mumbled, "I feel dizzy," and collapsed. My heart froze. I turned toward the girls. They weren't smiling anymore. Their faces had gone pale, blank, like masks. The dark-haired one reached into her bag and pulled out a small white pouch. The blonde whispered, "Don't run. We just need you to sleep too." "Sleep?" Before I could react, the blonde took out a syringe. That was it. Instinct took over. I grabbed a handful of snow and threw it at her face, then ran. Behind me, I could hear footsteps crunching fast over the snow. The sound of panic is something you never forget. The way your own breath becomes so loud you can't tell if someone's right behind you. "Get him! He's heading for the van!" one of them shouted. "Van!" I darted behind a tree and peeked out. Through the thick snowfall, I saw it. A white van parked near the edge of the lake. Inside, two men sat, one with a phone flashlight scanning the woods. My stomach dropped. Then one of them pointed directly at me and yelled, "There!" I didn't think. I just ran. Branches whipped my face and snow blinded me, but I kept going. The forest seemed endless. I slipped, rolled, hit the ground hard, and suddenly I was sliding down a steep slope. When I finally stopped, everything went black. When I woke up, it was night. My body was freezing, my lips numb, but I was alive. The forest above me was silent. Then I heard an engine. Headlights flashed through the trees. I forced myself to crawl toward the road below, and by some miracle, a highway patrol car was passing by. I waved weakly. The officers saw me and stopped immediately. They helped me inside, wrapped me in a blanket. When I told them what had happened, they exchanged worried looks. Finally, one of them said quietly, "You were in Devil's Forest." I nodded. The officer sighed. "You're not the first. 4 people have gone missing there in the past 2 years. We always thought they got lost in the snow, but some of what you said matches things we found." I told them about Mark and Daniel. Within minutes, a rescue team was dispatched. The next day, they found both of them, unconscious but alive, about a mile from the clearing. When they woke, they said something that still haunts me. "When we opened our eyes," Mark said, "we were inside the van. The door was open. No one was there." The police later found the same white van, abandoned near the forest trail. Inside were 2 cups, traces of a strange, colorless liquid, and 1 photograph, a faded, yellowed picture of the same 2 girls. On the back of it, written in smudged ink. Devil's Forest, 1998. The officers said if that date was correct, those girls should have been at least in their 40s by now. But the ones we met were our age. They never found the men or the girls. The forest was sealed off that same winter. Sometimes when I close my eyes at night, I still hear the sound of snow crunching softly outside my window, like footsteps circling the house. And in that half-sleep haze, I remember the last thing that dark-haired girl said before I ran. There's only one rule in Devil's Forest. No one comes out the same. Every year when winter reached its peak, when every breath turned to mist and the world wrapped itself in a white blanket, I, Kyle, and Ricky would follow a tradition we'd kept since childhood. We'd go to our lake, the frozen lake a few miles away from town. We called it our spot because no one else cared about it as much as we did. The lake was surrounded by trees buried in snow, a vast stretch of ice in the middle. And beneath that ice, a silence so deep, it sometimes made your heart pound just to listen to it. The three of us had been friends since we were kids, and maybe that's why we never missed this little ritual. We'd skate, laugh, throw snow, and sometimes kneel to stare down through the ice trying to see what lay below. But that year, something felt different. The winter was harsher than ever. Temperatures had dropped to -20. The ice was thicker than I'd ever seen, like the lake had completely sealed itself off from the world below. Our parents had warned us not to go, said the ice could be unpredictable. But you know how it is when you're young. The thrill of danger feels almost like an invitation. That evening, as the sun went down, the sky turned blood red. The air was still, biting cold. We pulled on our jackets and gloves, grabbed our flashlights, and set out. Just half an hour, I said. Then we head back. Kyle laughed. You always say that, and we never leave on time. Ricky stomped his boots into the snow and said, Come on, let's see what stories the lake has for us this year. When we reached the lake, I stopped. The ice was crystal clear, clearer than I'd ever seen it. You could see straight down. And below was darkness, deep, heavy, endless darkness. We walked out toward the center. The air grew silent. All you could hear was the soft crunch of our boots, like the ice was whispering back. I glanced down again, and for a second I could have sworn I saw something move beneath the ice. Did you see that? I asked Kyle. He smirked. You're imagining things. There's nothing down there, just water. But I couldn't shake it off. I leaned down again, and this time I saw it. A shape, human-like, deep under the frozen surface. It was moving. I stumbled back, my heart racing. I told you! There's something down there. Ricky pointed his flashlight down. The beam sliced through the ice, and all three of us saw it. A face, a human face. Eyes closed, lips blue, like someone had been lying there for a very long time. What the hell? Kyle whispered, his voice trembling. Ricky dropped to his knees, pressing his hand against the ice. Don't touch it, I shouted. Are you crazy? He didn't listen. If someone's down there, maybe they're still alive. Ricky, they're under ice. Nobody could survive that long. He pulled out a small iron rod from his jacket. I don't even know where he got it, and started hitting the ice. Each strike echoed like a heartbeat. Thunk, thunk, thunk. It felt like the lake itself was answering him. Then suddenly, silence. Ricky stopped, breathing hard. He pressed his hand on the ice again, and from beneath, something hit back. We jumped. A hand, pale, bony, bluish, moved beneath the ice. We ran, sliding, tripping, gasping for air. All I could think was, get out, get out, get out. Then, the sound, a sharp crack. I turned. The ice was splitting, in a perfect circle, like something underneath was trying to break through. Run! I screamed. Kyle! Ricky! Run! We sprinted, our boots slipping on the frost, and just as we reached the edge, boom! A burst of water exploded behind us. For just a second, I looked back, and I saw it. A face rising from the freezing water. Eyes open, but not human. Pale, swollen. Still. We didn't stop until we reached town. We could barely breathe. My hands were shaking so bad I could hardly hold the flashlight. We called the police. They went the next morning, but when they got there, nothing, no cracks, no signs, just smooth, untouched ice. They said, "You probably saw a reflection." Light can play tricks on frozen water, but we knew what we saw. For days, Ricky couldn't sleep. He said every time he closed his eyes, that face stared back at him. Kyle swore he'd never go near that lake again. I tried convincing myself it was just our imagination, until a few weeks later, when a local newspaper ran a small story. The body of a 23-year-old woman missing since last year was found a mile downstream. Police believe she was trapped under the ice and released as the lake thawed. I stared at the photo. My blood ran cold. It was her, the same face we saw beneath the ice. I called Ricky. He didn't answer. After that, we never spoke about it again. Not to each other, not to anyone. Now every year when winter comes back, I sometimes hear it again at night. Thunk, 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 like something knocking from under the ice. Once I gathered the courage to go near the lake again. It was empty, silent. No footprints, no voices. But I swear, beneath that frozen surface, something moved, and it was looking right at me.